Hello. Today I'll be talking about a fairly simple subject uh, that I think a lot of people confuse with another intention. Okay. Now, today I'm going to talk about ID cards. Okay. I won't show mine here, of course, but it's a small thing the size of an ATM card, and that I constantly have to have on me whenever I'm outside in the street. No, I'm not saying just to go to the to the supermarket or something. I have to have all my documents, but usually here it's like this. I have my ID card that identifies me as a Portuguese citizen. That ID card has everything. It has my tax number, it has my social security number. Okay, it has my affiliation, meaning the name of my father and my mother. I think it even has my height or something like that. Okay, my age and all of that, date of birth. And why do we have these cards? First of all, you also can have a chip in your card that, if you want to, it will be activated for other things, other accesses to public services. But if you don't, you will use the code that is sent to your phone number or to the phone number that you are registered under, so you can access a key, which is called a key. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's a mobile key that I can use to access all services in my state. Okay, everything. And this card replaces the old ID cards in which you have had a card for each thing. You had a card, an ID card, you had a tax card, you have a social security card, all of that, and now you only have it in one card. And I have heard people talking about it like it was an infringement to my rights. And I really don't understand that perspective. I don't understand the perspective of, for example, of so-called freedom of wandering around in the country without identifying myself, as if every state agency or every person would be forced to know who I am. Now, if this would be a worrisome thing in a country with 10 or 11 million people like Portugal, my cat, she's constantly entering the room and opening up the door. She's a lovely little thing. But if this would be worrisome in a small country, I cannot imagine how it would be in a country like the United States of America. And foreigners living here, they also have their own type of ID card. If they have a non temporary residence, they have another one card. If they have a permanent residence card, a permanent residency, sorry, they have a permanent card. And it's used more or less for the same things. Okay, the only separated card that we have is our voter's card, where there is a number, and if you happen to forget it, you just go online and see where your voting assembly is. It's usually you are obliged to, each time you change your address, you have to inform the local services, so you have access to the local services like I don't know, like the health center, like all the tax center, all of that, and or the place where you're going to vote. But they also have their cards, with the exception of certain things, because we are national citizens. Okay, but this facilitates a number of things that yes, this facilitates a number of things Like, for example, knowing who the person that you are talking to is as a police officer, for example. You know, if I'm a police officer and I'm talking with you, I want to know who you are. Me, as a police officer, I have a badge number here and a name right here in my uniform. And I'm also obliged to identify myself when I'm talking with you. So a police officer would say something like this: how are you? My name is corporal or whatever, or soldier or police officer. I don't know, Matthias. Okay, and I'm talking with you because of this. This is the first thing you will notice. There is no come here. No, people are people. We are not dogs. Okay, a person is not a dog. The police officer is not a dog. I am not a dog. I'm not saying they are going after uh, a robber and they say, "Hey, I'm police officer this and that. Come here and identify yourself." God's sake. But you understand this? This is the approach here. If I'm driving, I I must have a driver's license. Okay? Because one of the conditions to be able to drive is to have a driver's license. And like I said before with the ID cards, uh, the police officers don't have an obligation to tell you you must have your documents on you. No, it's in the law. You are driving, you must have the paperwork for the car, meaning in this case insurance and a certificate that the car is worth road ready. Okay, you have to have your personal documents, meaning your ID card and your driver's license. Simple as this. You don't have them, you can't drive. And the first thing that baffled me years ago, many years ago, when I got curious and saw one of those cops programs, the first thing that baffles me was people driving without an ID card and not getting blocked and jailed in the spot. If you don't have a driver's license, sorry, ID card, a driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, what the hell are you doing in the road? You cannot drive. Oh, but I need this. It's my constitutional right. Your constitutional right, my ass. You don't have a bloody driver's license. You don't drive. What is the big deal? Though this is infringement, you are infringing everybody else in the streets, in the roads, rights by driving without being habilitated to do so. Oh, but I can drive. Okay, then take the test and prove it. This is why you spend an average of 800 euros to get a driver's license here. 500 to 800 euros. And it's not easy. I I had my license. I got my license some 25 years ago, and you have an X amount of practical lessons, meaning being in a car with an instructor, learning how to drive. Then you have theoretical classes too, where you have to learn everything that is related to the road, even how to change the tire. You have to know all of that. Okay, and then at the end of the process, both in the theoretical and the practical area of learning how to drive, you have a test. You have a test for the theory, so that you have a minimum number of questions that you have to get right. Okay, and you have a driver test in which you go into an urban area, you sit in the car and you drive around with an examiner, and he tells you randomly, go here, go there, let's park here, let's park there, and if they consider you are able to drive, then my friend, you have your driver's license and you can drive. You only have to renew it uh, when you're 50 years old. After that, it's I think it's around, when you are 60 or something like that. And from 65 up, you also have to present how you call a doctor's certificate to ensure that you are still able to drive. Okay, because you might get old, you might not be able, you might have to drive with glasses. As you can see, sometimes I take my glasses off. This is because I have some issues with my eyes, but I can see more or less good, good enough to, for example, to be here in the computer or to do something like that. Okay, but if I'm driving, I need my glasses. Okay, because I cannot see far enough to understand this. But look, but it's so simple. And why? Then I hear this question: this will be a reason for them to control us. Control what? They already control you. If you are in a state, you are being controlled. If you are using look, if you are using a phone, a cell phone, okay, you are being controlled. If you have a ATM card, you are being controlled. But what are the advantages of this system? Imagine this: a foreigner comes here. He's registered. If he can stay here or whatever. No, he's the person that is working here, migrant worker, whatever you want to call him. But from day one, we know who that person is. We have there. Now we are even evolving to having their biometrics. We know who that person is. We know exactly where that person will be. Okay, we can identify him. If that person, for example, commits a crime or whatever, we know who that person is. And next time that person is caught, you will be kicked out of the country. We know exactly how many people are inside the country. We know everything because you cannot do anything without those documents. You cannot work, you cannot rent a house, you cannot do absolutely nothing without being properly identified. Okay? And you cannot have voter fraud, for example. You cannot have it. You know, last time I went to vote, I took my ID card and my voter card too. If I did not have my voter card, it would not be that much of a problem because I would identify myself. Maybe I lost it. Okay, but I saw online where I was going to vote in my local town. I went there to vote, presented my ID card. Here it is. Here, look. Here's me. Here's Ron. Okay. All right. Here is your voting ballot. You go and you vote, or the machine, or whatever. You go and you because there are different systems. You go and you vote, and it's done perfectly, perfectly reliable that a citizen named me voted there no, it's my vote, it's there. It's secret, but it's there. But I voted. Just as I'm driving, no, police officer, your documents, please. I present my documents. Oh, yes, thank you very much. No, and the officer does whatever he has to do. Maybe he was just identifying me to see that I was this person and not some other person that they might be looking for. No, I might have to take a random alcohol test. Normal, absolutely normal. Okay, Maybe I was speeding, and now I have to be either they have to advert me not to go that fast, or maybe to fine me, or maybe they are just stopping me to inform me there is a, for example, you're on the mountain and look, there's too much snow up ahead. You cannot drive that way. You will have to take the next turn and go via this road, for example. An endless number of things. But the officer is absolutely sure of who I am. I am absolutely sure of who he is because he always identifies himself, and he always has the proper idea, exterior signs that it is an officer, and all both of us need to have for each other is respect. Nothing bloody more. Okay, there is no doubt that in a country with more weapons like the United States, which is another issue, officers need to be more careful because they don't know who is sitting in the car, if the person has a gun or whatever. But to go to the length of what I have seen, of a person simply being distracted or whatever, and then opening the car of door, and they stay in the car, and they kick the bloody door in, and they're pointing guns, and that is not the attitude of a police officer. That is an attitude of some kind of lunatic. And if the guy that's sitting in the car is a lunatic too, it does not justify that the cop has to be a lunatic also. But with this simple thing of making people put it in the law that people need proper documentation to do some things, it's not infringing your rights. No, it's defending your rights. Because if you need a driver's license to be on the road, per principle, other people that are on the road also need to have a driver's license and also need to know what the hell they are doing. And if they don't, it's their fault. But okay, and if you are driving a car, you have a driver's license. If you don't have it, you cannot do it. Just like piloting an airplane, okay, just like some boats, just like some bikes. In bikes, so the Americans understand motorcycles, okay, under 50, how you call it, 50 cylinders or whatever, I don't know how you call it, horsepower. Above that, you need a license. It's as simple as this. You want to fish, you get a fishing license, and you say, oh, this is getting money from your rights. Okay, yes, it is, but I prefer that and having things under control. You in the United States, you are so legalist, and now right now you Republicans are being so legalistic. We need to do everything according to the law and blah 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 blah. And you are the first to break every law that exists. It is not an offense to anyone's right to have to have to be forced to have an ID card. It's not natural here. You know, since you are a kid, you learn this. I'm going here or there. I have my wallet. I have my ID card in it. Okay, it's no big deal. You, like I said, it's look. It's the I wouldn't show it here, but it's the size of. It's smaller than this comb. Okay, just put the bloody thing in your with your ATM card or whatever, and off you go. Even more so in a society that is becoming less and less monetized in the sense that you carrying money around with you. You just carry your cards and you pay it that way, or even into your phone. Now, right now, I can have a digital card, a digital ID card that I carry on my phone, and I can show it and I can identify myself. And there are multiple fail-safes to avoid that people forge documents. It's easier. It's easier to control forging. It's easy to control a series of things. But me personally, I think the simplest solution, the simple ID card, it's still the best. The best way for everyone, for the state officials and for yourself as a citizen. Because there are harsh penalties. For example, I will give you this example. You go to a courthouse as a witness. To witness in the case, you are summoned to be in the courthouse. Okay, you show your ID card, but they have to tell you why they are seeing the card. And usually they will say something like this: I just need to know that you are who you claim you are. I'm going to write down the number of your ID card and perhaps your date of birth or something like that and your full name, so that when we do the, how you call it, the document of where you're in, how you call it, I don't know how you call the court procedures, we know that you, Mr. Whatever, ID card number or identified by the ID card number, you were here and you were here as a witness. For example, this is a simple example. Or you arrive at the tax officer and you need to provide your number and you give your card and they either put it in a machine and that reads your data, an official machine that reads your data, and they know, oh yeah, here you are. Okay, it's a constant guarantee to have a document for anything. I don't understand this fixation with absolute rights. As a citizen, look, like the ancient Greeks said, as a citizen of the republic, of the republic of the city, I have my rights and I have my duties to the city. Both of them are important, and both of them make me a citizen. Meaning, we as citizens, we have a duty to the state. In this case, I have a duty to identify myself when I'm called upon to identify myself. Because the state, first of all, the state should not know exactly who I am, exactly what I do, because the state cannot overbear, okay, its influence in my life. I have a right, me personally, I have a right to not be identified by the state unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay? But I also have the duty to properly identify myself before the state so that the state knows who I am. Or else it would be pandemonium. Or else it will be funny things like I have seen in the USA. When the officer approached, do you have a driver's license? No. Why? Ah, blah, 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 blah. Here it would be, you have a driver's license? No. Then why are you driving? Get out of the car, you cannot drive. Okay. Why did you forget the documents at home? Whatever, what happened? Then they would go from there. But that person would be automatically fined. Look, and you can still drive inside private property. Unless you are driving in public in a public road, in a public area, that is the only place. Look, if you want to get a motorcycle and ride around in your property, no one will care. Unless you have an accident and you had an insurance, then the insurance will not be paid because you are not the bearer of the proper documents to operate the machine. But I know personally of friends that like to drive around in bikes, motorcycles, okay? In motorcycles, that they only do it inside of their properties and no one cares and no one and the state has no business on it because they are inside their property. Unless they go to a public road, no one cares. The right to bear arms. I As a Portuguese citizen, I can have two types of weapons. I can have a hunting rifle, even if I don't hunt, but I can have it as long as I have the proper documents. I can have a rifle, and I can have a pistol, a defense gun. I can have it inside my house. I can collect weapons as long as they are non-operative. Do you understand what this means? It means you remove a part of the weapon that allows it to function, and you can have a collection of weapons. I know people that have collections of weapons. There are shooting ranges also. Not so much because we really don't care much about it, but we do have it also. Okay. When I was younger, I had a hunting license. I went to hunt a couple of times with friends, and I did not like it. I prefer to hunt animals either with my notepad to draw them or my phone to photograph them. It's the thrill of the hunt that I want. Right now, I have not been doing it so much, but sometimes I would just take my bow and go into the woods and do the pursuit of the hunt because that was what I liked, the pursuit. If I want meat, I buy it from the I buy it from the butcher. But do you understand? But having documents to do activities, it's a principle of control. And if, for example, the United States had this, you would know exactly who you have in your country working, and the state would be doing its job, which is to fiscalize, which is what the government here does. Okay, randomly they go into a property, an agricultural farm or something. They ask for everybody's documents, and they see who is legal, who is not legal. They see if their contract is legal. They see if the conditions are correct. They do their bloody job. In the United States, you don't want to do your bloody job, so you bring anarchy. You don't have to always have an ID card. And I know there are circumstances, there are laws in different states. I understand all of that. I'm talking about the general aspect of the thing. And you are not the only country with this type of ideas. For example, in the UK, they were using the ID card saying, or the voter card, or whatever, or the identification methods before the last elections in order to try and stop the voting in Labour, okay, that led to the Tories to now become the second or third political force in the United Kingdom. And they were using that right now in, near the elections to try and coerce people out of voting. That is another story. But right now, for example, the government could we are going to issue an ID card to all British citizens. This will be their number, okay? Well, you have to go mandatorily to your local council, register yourself to have your ID card. If you are a foreigner, same sign, same thing. You will have, and this would save millions to the state. It saves millions to the states in Europe because we don't have to bother with this shit. Okay, and we have the security of knowing, for example, you have a property in Texas. Okay, and the state services go there and they ask for the ID, the cards, the resident cards of the people that are in there. Okay, do you realize how easy an ICE raid would be? They would not have to go guns in hand, gung ho. They would just be a guy in a suit like it is here. Sometimes they go with the police when there are specific situations that require it. For example, something saying that the left was complaining about here that was nothing. That was in a street where we had a lot of immigrants. The police went there. It was an absolutely normal situation. They identify everyone. They arrested the people that detained, in this case, detained the people that were illegally and whatever, so that they can then either regularize their situation or be deported. And it was easy. You ask, sir, your ID card, please. Thank you very much. Your or residence card or whatever. Here you go. You can go. It facilitates the life of everyone, and it's not infringing in the right. And that crap that the extreme right is always trying, and also the extreme left is always trying to talk about. This is control. They are going to control us. This, my friend, they can control you. They can control you in other ways, much easier ways. Like I told you, even with the bloody cell phone, even if you turn it off, they can control you. This cell phone right now is turned on, turned up, turned on. Sorry. If I was to turn it off, they would still know where I am. The only way that this phone would not tell the government where I am was if I opened my phone, turned it off, and removed the card. It would be the only way they would not be able to triangulate my position. So stop this shit. They are controlling you, yes, they are controlling through the media, spreading these ideas so you are all divided instead of telling the state, look, you don't want illegals, okay, now make it mandatory for everybody to be a bearer of a document of identification at all time. Make it. Oh, healthcare is not working. Okay, make it mandatory for each employer and each worker to discount an amount of money to a national health service, okay, that will be compelled to proportionate to give or to sell or whatever system you function healthcare to everyone. But no, then the big medical firms, the jails, private jails, and the entire system that is feeding off this, they would be defunded. And again, like I said in my latest stream, follow the money trail. And see, has such a simple thing as having an ID card would stop a lot of issues that you have. It's not perfect. I'm not saying that, okay? Things have to work. But it's a start, it's a solution for a problem. And it's not infringing in anyone's rights. If you are living in a state, or okay, you have already given a part of your freedom to another entity, to a collective entity. Unless you want to be a nomad, for example, in Antarctica or in the Arctic Circle or whatever, And even so, those areas are already under human control also. I would be more worried, me personally, I would be more worried about the state being able to sell my data to companies like it's happening in the US. Here, it's jail time. Here, each access of a public office to a citizen's information is recorded. Each and even if they by mistake punch a key and instead of calling the the file of Mr. Antonio Silva, they bring up the file of Mr. Antonio Chivas. Okay, you understand? Even so, it's recorded, and that person, that public officer that saw that data, they can be called upon. On the other hand, all politicians, tax revenue, income, all of that, public access. I can access it. It will be recorded that I went saw it, which is also fair because it's their data too. But it's there, publicly accessed. Sometimes the best way to protect something is to have it in the public eye. If everything is clear, if everything is out in the open, you cannot claim doubt. No. Well, this stream has gone. This stream, God. This video has gone long enough, but look, I hope you all stay safe, and I hope to see you next video. Okay?